We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. It is Sunday, April 24th, 2022, 5:40 a.m. Well, I'm back in the saddle again. Took 2 weeks off because of a YouTube strike, and I ain't gonna lie, it kind of bummed me out. That, and I've been stressing. I gotta go to the dentist, and I ain't even been reading or anything. I just been in a funk. And anyone who knows how I am, that's something I deal with, is depression and all that. And it just seemed like everything kind of hit me at once, having to freaking out over this dentist appointment I got to make. And then YouTube channel getting a strike has just bummed me out. So I took a little 2-week vacation till I got the channel back. I'm back on YouTube, just with my old channel, which has a strike on it. So if I get another strike on it, it'll be another 2 weeks, and then I can't post anymore on it. I'm not sure if I'm going to create another YouTube channel, or, I'll think about that when the time comes. But I'm back, so let's get on with the show. So here's some recent news. InfoWars is filing for bankruptcy. So what does InfoWars bankruptcy filing mean? InfoWars has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection as the website's founder and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones faces defamation lawsuits over his comments that the Handy Sook, I hope you know what I mean when I say that, elementary school shooting was a hoax. Here's a little clip. Let's see if it plays.
Of victims of the Sandy Hook shooting massacre in Newtown, Connecticut, the families of 6 victims want pretrial access to information about controversial host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones and his program InfoWars. The family sued Jones for defamation for his repeated claims that the deadly shooting was a hoax. 20 elementary students and 6 educators were murdered during that rampage. Legal victory for the...
So Austin, Texas, Alex Jones' company InfoWar has filed for bankruptcy protection after the conspiracy theorist lost defamation lawsuits over his comments that the 2012 Handy Sook elementary school massacre was a hoax. Jones filed for Chapter 11 protection in Texas and told his listeners Monday he was totally maxed out financially. He urged his audience to contribute money or buy products off of his InfoWars website. Attorneys for Handy Sook families have accused Jones of trying to hide millions of dollars in assets, as juries later this year are set to determine how much he should pay in damages. Here's what to know. What does Alex Jones claim? InfoWars told the bankruptcy court it had estimated assets of $50,000 or less and estimated liabilities of $1 million to $10 million. Creditors listed in the filing include relatives of some of the 20 children of 6 educators killed in the 2012 school massacre in Connecticut. 2 other companies with ties to Jones, Prison Planet TV and IW Health also filed for bankruptcy. An attorney for InfoWars did not return messages seeking comment, but Jones has addressed the bankruptcy in recent days on his show. He has been banned from major social media platforms for hate speech and abusive behavior. Yeah, okay, I've been banned too, so. We have less than $3 million cash, and we need that money to operate, Jones says. What is Jones facing? Jury selection had been set to begin next week in Austin in a trial to determine how much Jones should pay the families of Handy Sook victims. He faces similar trials in Connecticut later this year. The plaintiffs in those cases have said they were subjected to harassment and death threats from Jones's followers because he promoted the hoax conspiracy that crisis actors faked the shooting in an effort by the federal government to take away guns and restrict firearms. Now, I do have to say this. If they were actually being harassed by people and death threats, that sucks, man. I don't wish that upon anyone. Yeah. Jones has since conceded that the shooting did happen. Alex Jones is just delaying the inevitable, a public trial in which he will be held accountable for his profit-driven campaign of lies against the Handy Sook families who have brought this lawsuit, said Christopher Mattei, who represents the families in Connecticut lawsuits against Jones. Neil Heslin, whose 6-year-old son, Jesse Lewis, died in the Newtown school shooting, said he did not immediately know how the bankruptcy would affect his defamation lawsuit against Jones in Texas. It is what it is, Heslin said. We'll see where it all goes. He's tried everything to avoid everything. What are Jones's finances? A separate lawsuit earlier this month accused Jones of hiding millions of dollars in assets. An attorney for Jones has called this allegation ridiculous. Last month, Jones was fined $75,000 for failing to appear for a deposition in the defamation case, but a judge last week ordered the return of the money because Jones eventually showed up. The bankruptcy court filings claim that Jones had paid $10 million in legal fees. He claimed in court records last year that he had a negative net worth of $20 million, but attorneys for Handy Sook families have painted a different financial picture. Court records show that Jones' InfoWars store, which sells nutritional supplements and survival gear, made more than $165 million between 2015 and 2018. He's going to come under far more scrutiny under a bankruptcy court than in state court, said Sid Sheinberg, a bankruptcy attorney with Godwin, Bowman, and Dallas, which is not involved in the Jones case. What effect will this have on the Handy Sook cases? Filing for Chapter 11 puts civil litigation on hold while the business reorganizes its finances. It is not the first time a bankruptcy filing has affected a lawsuit filed by the Handy Sook victims. While suing gun maker Remington, which manufactured the AR-15 style rifle used in the school shooting, the company filed for bankruptcy twice. In the second case, filed in 2020, Remington's assets were eventually sold off to other companies. The 2020 bankruptcy delayed proceedings for a year in the Connecticut lawsuit, which sought damages against Remington for how it marketed its rifles. In February, the families of the 9 victims of the school shooting announced they had agreed to settle the case for $73 million. So there you have it. InfoWars is filing, Alex Jones in general, filing for bankruptcy. So I personally subscribe to the theory that there's some weird stuff about Handy Sook. I got to be careful. on what I say with the platform I'm on. But I would look into it if I were you, because I personally think there's some fishiness there. I actually like Alex Jones. I know a lot of channels and stuff, a lot of content creators, they say he's CIA or Zionist. I don't know. I like him. I don't agree with him all the time. I don't agree with him 100%. I try not to buy into the left-right paradigm that he subscribes to. I do know that he's like real big on supporting Israel and stuff, and I don't agree with him 100%, but I actually like him. I think he puts out a lot of good info. He's woke a lot of people up, red pilled a lot of people. So it's up to you. If you want to support him, throw him some money, maybe buy a t-shirt, something along those lines. Hell, I might buy a t-shirt just for shits and giggles, maybe help him out a little bit. But yeah, let's get on with the next story. Here's some cool stuff I found out while watching Jacob Israel. So shout out to Jacob Israel. Go ahead and check his channel out. Sub if you like. Tell him who sent you. Maybe he'll give me a shout out. But yeah, archaeologists discover historical artifacts during Notre Dame Cathedral restoration. Archaeologists say they will soon open a human-shaped lead sarcophagus found underneath the floor at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The announcement came around the 3-year anniversary of a devastating fire that engulfed the more than 850-year-old national monument and shocked the world. By the way, that whole fire was predicted in the iPet Goat 2. You can see it in the background. The steeple literally fell the exact same way and everything. Creepy stuff. The day after the blaze, archaeologists were called in to assist with the conservation and restoration of the cathedral, as workers set to the task of rebuilding. Quote, "The vaults crashed here during the fire and opened a hole into the 19th century heating network, and underneath there is a series of layers, which is very dense, interesting, and fascinating," said French National Archaeological Institute archaeologist Christophe Besnier, or Besnier, I guess. Archaeologists were permitted to excavate a small area of the exposed flooring in preparation for scaffolding that needed to be constructed in order to restore the church's large spire, which collapsed during the blaze. During the preparatory excavation, archaeologists discovered a number of historical artifacts, including painted sculptures, tombs, and sections of the Lost Rood screen, which was sort of a fence that was constructed in 1230 to separate the choir from the congregation. The Rood screen was demolished during the time of Louis the 14th, the Roman numeral. But the 19th century excavations performed by Eugene Viollet-le-Duc led to the discovery of sections of the ornate wall. Those sections are currently kept at the Louvre. Among the tombs recently discovered was a human-shaped lead sarcophagus that archaeologists believed may date to the 14th century, but they won't know for sure until it's opened. Quote, "We were able to send a small camera inside which showed cloth remains, organic matter such as hair and plant remains," Besnier said. He says the plant material indicates that the contents of the sarcophagus have been well preserved and could be from a boxwood tree. which was used to preserve the bodies of the social elite. France's National Institute of Preventive Archaeological Research says it will attempt to identify and date the remains, believing them to be of an important individual. Burials in churches and cathedrals were generally reserved for elites or members of the clergy, with a location nearest the choir being the most desirable. Although other sections of the lost rood screen were also discovered, archaeologists were unable to unearth them due to the constrained timeline that has been hampered by the beerbug pandemic, as well as concern about the lead which spewed from the fire spreading toxic dust throughout parts of central Paris. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged to complete reconstruction by April 15, 2024, the 5th anniversary of the blaze, and months before Paris is set to host the Summer Olympics. Notre Dame is our history, our literature, part of our psyche, the place of all our great events, our epidemics, our wars, our liberations, the epicenter of our lives, Macron told reporters the morning after the blaze. We will rebuild it together. So there you have it. Archaeologists found basically a sarcophagus underneath the ruins of Notre Dame. I found it interesting. I like that type of stuff, archaeology, and I try to cover it on this channel as much as possible. So I hope you did too. So this one made my day. CNN Plus will shut down at the end of April. CNN Plus, the streaming service that was hyped as one of the most significant developments in the history of CNN, will shut down on April 30th, just 1 month after it launched. Aw, man, I know that bums you guys out. CNN Plus customers will receive prorated refunds of subscription fees, the company said. The decision was made by new management after CNN's former parent company, Warner Media, merged with Discovery to form Warner Brothers Discovery earlier this month. And by the way, most of their ratings, the only reason they get such high ratings in general is because they have deals with nursing homes and airports. That's what they play on their televisions. So there's where their viewership comes from. The prior management team's vision for CNN Plus runs counter to Warner Brothers. Discovery CEO David Zaslav's plan. Man, I tell you what, anyone who works for CNN has the weirdest last names. Lemon, Zaslav's, Comey. Cuomo. That's what it was. Cuomo. Zaslav's plan to house all of the company's brands under one streaming service. Some CNN Plus programming may eventually live on through that service. Other programming will shift to CNN's main television network. Quote, in a complex streaming market, consumers want simplicity and an all-in service which provides a better experience and more value. Value. You mean more shit than standalone offerings. And for the company, a more sustainable business model to drive our future investments in great journalism. Yeah. And storytelling. Well, that's one thing that's correct there, is they are good at telling stories. So I'll give them that. Discovery's streaming boss, J.P. Perrette, says in a statement, We have very exciting opportunities ahead in the streaming space and CNN, one of the world's premier reputational assets. We will play an important role there, Perrette added. Perrette and incoming CNN CEO Chris Litch notified staffers of the decision in a meeting on Thursday afternoon. Litch bluntly told employees it was a uniquely shitty situation. Hundreds of CNN Plus staffers may lose their jobs. Aw, poor guys. Well, they should have, I don't know, worked for a better, more honest company, honestly. How do you work? How do you sleep at night working for CNN? I don't understand that one. Like, I'm not trying to be shitting on people, but I don't know. I just feel like I couldn't work for a company like that. I'd rather work at McDonald's or something, you know. I would rather work at McDonald's than CNN. Hundreds of CNN Plus staffers may lose their jobs. Litch said in an internal memo that all CNN Plus employees will continue to be paid and receive benefits for the next 90 days to explore opportunities at CNN, Digital, and elsewhere in the Warner Brothers Discovery family. Staffers who aren't absorbed somewhere in the company will receive a minimum of 6 months of severance, he added. An agent for one CNN Plus host, who was set to anchor a weekly show on the streaming service, described their client's program at the network as facing an uncertain future. It's all TBD, the person said. But the agent added that the network has gone out of its way to make clear that it is committed to finding roles for CNN Plus host. Litch said in a town hall style meeting with staffers that this was an incredibly successful launch, but simply incompatible with the newly merged company's plans. Or it could be just that no one's paying for it and no one's watching it because it's shit. It is not your fault that you had the rug pulled out from underneath you, he said as he vowed to minimize the impacts to staff. One CNN Plus staffer at the town hall described the sentiment as total and utter shock. Really? Come on now. That morphed into despair. Aw. At first, people were really freaking out, explained the person, who requested anonymity to candidly describe the situation. And then, toward the end of the meeting, it just turned to sadness. Every team was just huddling with each other. During the town hall, Perrette expressed some frustration with the prior leadership of CNN, which was led by Jeff Zucker until February, and Warner Media, which was led by Jason Killer until early April. Some of this was avoidable, he said, but prior leadership decided to just keep going. With the planned March launch of CNN Plus, despite the impending merger, he said. The streaming service ended up launching just 2 weeks before the Warner Media Discovery merger completed, much to the exasperation of Discovery leadership, which had a different strategy but could not legally communicate with CNN executives before the deal was official. Warner Brothers Discovery has billions in debt, much of which is a result of the deal to combine the company, and executives are under pressure to find $3 billion in savings that Wall Street is expecting from them. The executive vice president in charge of CNN Plus and all of CNN's digital businesses, Andrew Morse, who worked closely with Kyler and Zucker, will depart the company after a transition period. In a note to employees, Morse described his 9 years at CNN as an incredible ride and said, as the company enters an exciting period of change, it's going to be exciting. You guys are crumbling from the inside out, and it's fucking hilarious. It's clear that the vision the new leadership has for the future is different than the one we've had. That's okay. That's all part of change. Litch said in the town hall that he wanted Morse to stay, but respected the decision. Alex McCallum, the head of product and general manager of CNN Plus, will run CNN Digital and work with Litch to determine a leadership strategy going forward, the company said in a press release. On Thursday afternoon, CNN Plus employees housed on the 16th floor of the Hudson Yards, the network's New York headquarters, broke out whiskey and wine to commiserate. The decision to shut down CNN Plus just weeks after it launched marked a stunning end to the streaming news service. Executives had touted the application as the most significant launch since Ted Turner founded CNN in 1980. Ugh, I hate Ted Turner. He's such a garbage person. CNN had poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the new streaming app and lured top talent from other networks for it, including Casey Hunt from NBC and Chris Wallace from Fox News. See, that's what I said, man. Operation Mockingbird, Fox News. People think Fox News and CNN are like warring with each other. That's bullshit, man. Two wings of the same bird. They're both owned by the same owner. So that should tell you something right there. People always ask me which one to trust, and I'm like, or if they should trust Fox News. I'm like, I don't trust it. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, one of my guilty pleasures is I like to watch Tucker Carlson every now and then, but I don't trust it as far as I could throw it. I mean, just remember the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and all the shit that they pushed for, and the fake terrorist training videos, and that's not even a conspiracy anymore. Like, they've come out and said, yeah, a lot of that footage was fake and shit, you know. But I digress. The streaming service featured hours of daily live programming and weekly shows. The programming will continue on stream through the end of the month. But there you have it. CNN is crumbling ever so slowly, and it's beautiful, beautiful.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.